a National Football League perspective. He joins us every single Thursday, ladies and gentlemen, from the NFL.
No warning.
Network. I told you. I said I'm coming now. Ready? Question mark.
And I replied to you. You see my reply?
Yeah, that's what she said. Not fun. You want me to give you some time to finish your breakfast?
No, this is a working lunch.
It's a working. Come on, I gotta mute you. You can't listen to you eat your food. It's terrible. And I like how I said breakfast. It's 1:20 where you're at, like an idiot.
There's tuna salad.
All right.
The only fish I eat for breakfast is lox.
Yeah, well, hey, I love a good launch. Mike Garafolo joins us as we talk all things NFL. Garafolo joins us every single Thursday. It's brought to you by Hartley and Hartley Insurance. Your trusted family-owned insurance experts in the Puget Sound area since 1978. Honesty, fairness, integrity. You can contact Jamie Hartley, 253-565-8700. Also, Zogs on Fox Island, kiddos. Perfect spot, cold beer, hang out with friends, catch the game, enjoy the Northwest fall. They're at Zogs on Fox.
You should tell Bridget Condon. She's covering the game for us. Although she'll be busy, she can't hit Zogs. Well, if she doesn't have to stay for she'll have to stay for post game. Never mind. Just tell her to stay another day and go to Zogs.
Okay, I will do. Love Bridget. Does great work. Okay. What was that?
That was me trying to stifle a burp.
Oh, we going to get one of the appearances from the kids today?
No, they're not home.
Oh, that's good.
Not home, which is funny because we did an interview with Cameron Bynum from the Vikings yesterday. The guy that did the Parent Trap thing that I didn't recognize live, but apparently was a big thing. And he's like, "Well, he was at the beach, and we're like, he's in Hawaii on the bye week." We're like, why didn't you just do it on the beach? He goes, there's kids running around. I was like, there's kids running around here, dude. Like, I'm in my house. So, no, the door's open. Vivian's not here. Carmen's in school. We should be good.
Damn it. Let's jump right into it. You had the report there on Uchenna Nwosu going on the IR. Then you told me, hey, expect it to be longer than the 4 weeks, but not season ending. Mike McDonald said that yesterday. It's going to be longer than the 4 weeks. Is there a chance that he could not come back at all this year?
I don't know. I mean, everything I was – let me mute this, sorry. Everything I was told was that it's in the area of 6 to 10 weeks. So is there a chance? I don't know if there's a setback. I don't understand the full injury, some kind of deep contusion or something. I don't quote me on that. There's some kind of something. But I don't know if this is the kind of thing where you can have a setback. Like a lot of times if it's a hamstring or a quad tendon thing, which I think you're going to ask me about coming up here with another player, a lot of times like something like that can take a little bit longer to come back from. I don't know this one. I don't know enough. I was told it was somewhere within 6 to 10. So you hope it's on the early side of that.
Yeah, it's unfortunate for him. I mean, I don't think you call him injury prone because he's just had some of these freak injuries. They're not like hamstrings and soft tissue injuries. But man, he's been snake bitten with since coming over here. He's had the 1 year and then he got paid and good for him. But since then,
it's not like he's
been injury. Yeah. It's been injuries for him.
He's
non-stop.
Not like he's checking out. It's not like he's Yeah. Ooh, I felt a little something there. No, it's been some significant, serious stuff, and it's a shame because he's a heck of a player and he's a big part of what they want to do on defense.
He is, and they could use him, right? I mean, that's one of the storylines so far in the beginning of the season, Mike. And I think there was a lot of people that, once McDonald got hired, and again, I don't think anyone here is panicking, but, they thought, well, he's going to make an instant fix to this defense. And I think so far during 5 games, they haven't done that.
No, I mean, early on it was the question of who they were playing, right? Now it's into the thick of their schedule. And I think that they were kind of, anytime you win a game in the NFL, you're like, we won a game in the NFL. It's hard to do. And I get that, I do. But there is an element of who your schedule is and who you're playing. And, maybe early on starting to get a feel of things and feeling like you're in a groove and you can stack up with anybody. And now, maybe realizing that this is going to be a battle for 17 weeks here in the NFL, which is not to say that Mike McDonald is foreign to the NFL. He's certainly been around and in higher ranking positions other than head coaching. So yeah, this will be an interesting one though. On a short week, divisional opponent who's not playing particularly well, who's been extremely vulnerable. I can't believe that this is the same team we saw opening night against the Jets that just completely dominated for 90% of that game. And if they have a kicker the other day and they don't have to go for it on 4th and 23 or whatever it was, and they kick a field goal and maybe everything's completely different. I get all that. I do. But it's going to be interesting.
Why do you think they've struggled so much? I mean, I know they've got injuries and everyone's got injuries, but I mean, you've got Deebo Samuel not playing up to his capability. He doesn't even look like the same player anymore. Yeah. And these guys are getting older. Brandon Ayuk hasn't really had the season yet. No, maybe it was the off season and the training camp stuff. But what has led to them? I mean, the only thing that comes to my mind here, Mike, is that are they feeling the pressure to get it done this year, and is that causing some of these issues?
So in Philly last year, you had the opposite. You had the team that, because Super Bowl hangover. See, Super Bowl hangover always to me feels like more of a thing for the team that lost than the team that won. So you've got that potentially, and in Philly last year, they got off to a great start, and I was like, no Super Bowl hangover, and then they stumbled down the stretch. And in talking to folks this offseason down there, their thing was it was the Super Bowl hangover. And I go, that doesn't make any sense. You were 11-1 or whatever you were to start the season. And they're like, yeah, but it's there. It's there the whole year. It hangs over you. Like, you understand having been as close as you were, and you had a really great season, but yet you feel so terribly because you lost that last game. And it colors everything that you kind of do. So I think there's a little bit of that. Sometimes it hits early, sometimes it hits late, I guess. So I think there's a little bit of that combined with the injuries, combined with, I think teams are starting to catch up because more people are running what Kyle Shanahan has been doing around the league. And I think defenses in the end do adjust. And look, the Dolphins are struggling too. I understand that they've got that Tua is it, but even, pre-Tua injury, it didn't look the same. I think a lot of defenses are starting to catch on to some of this stuff. So, it's a little bit of a bunch of factors at play, I think.
Do you find them in a similar scenario, the Niners, as where maybe Seattle was after the second Super Bowl? Because you've paid so many guys so much money, especially defensive guys. Everyone's getting a little bit older, and now you've got to pay the quarterback. They have to pay the quarterback next season, and he's going to make, we've talked about this before, he's going to make $60+ million a year.
Yeah.
And, these teams are hamstrung by quarterback play. They need to have a quarterback. Do you see parallels with them in Seattle?
I see parallels with a bunch of teams that get out of that window. When you've got the rookie quarterback that allows you to do things a certain way. And I would say the team that avoided that was the Chiefs, but because Patrick Mahomes' contract was structured in a way where they didn't get walloped up front on that deal the way that other teams have done. Go back to the Eagles, Jalen Hurts, and which now is still a $51 million deal, something like that. And now compared to the fact that we're into the 60s, it's like, whoa, all right. So not that it's a bargain because he's got to step up his play. He's got to play better. But the Eagles' approach before that contract versus after that contract, it changes how you can do things. So yeah, they're going to be in that world coming up here. It's a good problem to have. But they're going to have to say goodbye to some folks. I just don't see, like, the McCaffrey thing. Obviously was a big anvil dropped on the beginning part of their season, right? That's another factor that I didn't mention. He went from being questionable week 1 to out for whatever. We're in this week 6 plus.
To go into Germany, man, and you know this.
Yeah.
Anytime an athlete gets on a flight to Germany, it's just not good.
No.
It's not good.
No. That's a far trip when there are really good doctors and medical approaches available here.
Yeah, but like the stuff that we hear in the States, we just don't approve. So I mean, I think most people knew the second he jumped on that and you heard that he's going to Germany, it was going to be bad news. I mean, I would assume there's a potential he doesn't see the field again this year.
I think we're in that, that's, Apparently, the hope is that that's not going to be the case. And he's working his way back. If you're asking me, I would say more likely he is back this season, but it's a non-0% chance that we're talking about here.
Yeah. Abe Lucas, we have talked about it. I feel like every week I ask you about Abe Lucas. I love Abe Lucas. He's a Coug, so I love him even more, and he's a hell of a football player, and I know that he wants to get back on the football field.
Yeah.
And he's got videos putting out there that he's working out, doing this and doing that. And the one thing you don't want, and especially I go back to last year when I think it was Carroll, I think he's the one who mentioned, the scary C word. Well, it could be chronic. A knee issue. Where are we at? What is the latest with the Seahawks right tackle, Abe Lucas?
My understanding is his practice window. Now, there's a difference between, we saw this yesterday with Tyson Campbell with the Jaguars when people said, oh, he's back. No. It's a practice window of 21 days to get yourself into game shape when you're coming off of these lists, whether it's PUP or NFI or whatever. My understanding is his practice window should be activated here in the next couple of weeks. So add it all together. If you use the entire window, if it's 21 days plus a couple of weeks till that 21, it could still be, a couple of weeks before he is back and ready to go. But they are taking the slow approach with him to make sure that he is ready to rock. And there's no setbacks and there's nothing in that regard.
Okay.
Because he was the quad or the quad tendon. Yeah, quad tendon, right?
Yeah.
No?
Why was that? I can't remember for his. I don't even know. I can't even. No, it's a knee issue with him.
Well, the knee,
chronic knee issue. Then,
but the knee into the quad. It was a quad tendon. Am I remembering this correctly? I should. You've asked me enough about it.
Yeah. That's why I want you to make me feel better about Abe Lucas. I want him to come back. They desperately need him, and their offensive line is just a disaster. I mean, they don't have anybody. Charles Cross has been like the only good one, and that's about it. Other than that, it's just been Connor Williams is not healthy. Anthony Bradford, they drafted a couple of years ago, is not good. They're starting Stone Forsythe up right tackle. He's the third string right tackle. I mean, it's
a good
just
name though.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
It's a porn name. That's what I like about it.
Well, I don't know about that.
It is. Stone Forsythe.
Stone Forsythe?
Yeah.
Well, if you grew up on, there's a Forsythe Road where we go down the shore. So if maybe the dog's name was Stone and Forsythe was the street, right? Isn't that how it works?
Well, yeah. No. What is it?
I don't know.
Hold on. It's your middle. No, it's your middle name. It's your middle name and the street you grew up on.
Maybe he grew up on Forsythe. Meanwhile, Jarek Reed. Another guy that you got a thumbs up. Jarek Reed, another guy whose practice window should be opening up here. I know they liked him on special teams last year. Thought he did a fantastic job. I know that's not sexy, but a key part of what they do, and they expect him back, from what I gather.
Okay. All right. Mine is Andrew Fairwood. That's
what is it? Middle name?
It's middle name and then street you grew up on.
I'm Francis Cleveland.
That's unbelievable. That is sensational. I like that one, Francis Cleveland. Yeah,
Francis Cleveland sounds like a Civil War. I don't know if he'd be a general, but he'd be something there.
Yeah, general. Maybe I don't know why I got Francis Ford Coppola in my head. Maybe a director, like
I'm
an
Italian,
indie film.
and you're
indie film director, Francis Cleveland. Speaking of, not speaking of the Eagles.
Speaking of Italians.
Speaking of Italians, let's talk about Philadelphia. Boy, he didn't like the. Why am I blanking on the head coach?
Sirianni. That's what I said.
Jesus.
Speaking of Italian.
God, he sure didn't like the question about his job security.
Who does? Nobody ever asked me that, you know?
Yeah, no. Yeah, everybody would react the same way. How do you feel about maybe your job being on the line? Oh, I feel great. Can't wait to hopefully get fired. But yeah, is his job on the line?
If they don't reach, I mean, Jeffrey Lurie's got incredibly high expectations.
Yeah.
We saw it with Doug Peterson, who I think if Doug Peterson and the Jaguars had done that in Philly, and like the way that things went last year, I think like that would have been, they would have, the way that they stumbled down the stretch, which the Eagles did as well, but it was within a season of going to the Super Bowl. Which is why when that came up last year, there was incredible pushback from down there. People are like, "Are you kidding me? We just went to the Super." I'm like, "Listen, man," and I don't know that it was 100% safe. I mean, certainly they redid the coaching staff there, and I think that's part of it in Jeffrey Lurie's mind was like, okay, you got your coordinators, right? You wanted Vic Fangio the year before, you finally got him. And now you got yourself a guy in Kellen Moore who's a break from the tree here after we lost Shane Steichen to becoming a head coach 2 years ago. So I think he looks at it and says, all right, this is what you expected that you needed, and the expectations were going to be raised, so it's time to meet them. So we'll see.
Can we is it too early to speculate on who would jump in there? Let's just speculate. Can we just throw names out, please?
Oh yeah, big speculator right here.
Come on, just who? Come on,
just
who
say
does
it.
Jeffrey Lurie like?
Why don't you say Bill Belichick? Who now, by the way?
I don't want to say Bill. I don't think he'd ever hire Belichick. I don't think anyone's going to hire him.
Between Philly, the Giants potentially, we'll see how that goes. I mean, last week's win certainly helps. I'm not putting Dable on the hot seat, but Philly, the Giants, where he has relationships, and they've tried to hire Belichick disciples, and now the Jets. Now the Jets.
You definitely think he'll get hired. Do you think he gets hired in the next cycle?
There is, I don't say no question in my mind, but it is. We're in the 90 percentile. Right. I mean, think about your chance to come back to the AFC East with, like Buffalo and Miami wouldn't ring as much as like you went to the Jets and not that he's going to dominate. He's not bringing Tom Brady in his prime with him. I get all that, but in his mind, he thinks I'm still the greatest NFL head coach, and he's still very good. I had a player agent. We had lunch at the Combine, and he was like, "It is insane to me." And this guy's really good, like really smart. Talking about the league, and I just like to talk to him about he goes, it is insane to me that nobody hired Bill Belichick for this cycle. And the way he broke it down was so great. He goes, your children's lives are on the line. You have to make the playoffs, okay? Who do you hire as your coach? Bill Belichick and he went down the list. He came up with like 5 teams where he goes, okay, I'd leave that guy in place to make like Andy Reid. I'd leave him in place over Bill Belichick to make. But what
what is he won without Tom Brady?
I get it, but it's
his record is terrible.
Okay, when you break it down that way and you go through all these coaches and you're like, your children's lives are on the line. I was like, wow, and I just think that. Especially with a guy like him that tries to do it the way he does, you get to a certain point and it's just time. I don't know how Mike Tomlin has avoided it. Now, granted, you could also say Mike Tomlin hasn't won a Super Bowl in 16 years or whatever it is. But like the message goes, like it was time for Andy Reid in Philly. It was time. It was it. It was done. It was time for Bill Belichick in New England. It was done. It was just done. Now, I don't know. What I'm curious about is if this year being in the media, changing his image the way that he has, will that change? Like he's on Instagram. Do you think when he gets a head coaching job that Instagram account's still going to be open? Perhaps. I don't know. But I just think that this gave him a chance to step back and go, well, I don't have to be an intolerable dick. Like there's another way to do this, Yeah.
Well, I agree. But it just seems weird. I don't know. It just seems weird that that people. Well, not weird. Let me backtrack. That's not weird. It's just that he comes across as someone that's so heavy-handed.
Yeah, but again, this year,
I don't know if people want that.
I mean, it was a role he was playing because he's not like that, and you knew in the moment he was not like that. Like his press conference where he's grumbling, and it's just like. Because he would do interviews on WEEI in Boston, and he'd give great answers. And you're like, why can't you just do that? And the whole thing, and it's some of the legendary stories about he'd get on Brady in meetings in front of everybody, and Brady would take it. Because Brady understood that the 53rd guy is going to be like, holy crap, if that's how he's treating Tom Brady, boy, I better get my stuff in order. So I just don't know that works without a legendary quarterback who's willing to take it. It's less about like, oh, he had a great player that was part of it, right? The quarterback can carry you. We see that with a number of teams. If your quarterback, if you get that right, you got other areas that aren't great that can be covered up. So it was a little bit of that, but I think it was also the way that Brady bought into it. And when Brady bought into it, it just completely trickled down. So if you don't have that, maybe you got to have a different approach. I would hope that that's what he's seeing right here.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to watch. I don't know. I mean, you're probably right that he would be hired. It would be fantastic theater if the Jets hired him.
It'd be
it'd
be amazing.
Could the Jets? Could they get along?
Who?
Could him and Aaron Rodgers get along?
Doesn't matter. I mean, they can. It's another year of Rodgers, maybe.
Yeah.
I think they could. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. Aaron's a complicated guy.
Yeah, he is a complicated guy. It's unbelievable. What did you make? What did you make of that? What did you make of the whole Robert Saleh thing?
I still
the firing of all of it. I mean, what happened?
Woody Johnson got it into his head. I do like I don't. The night before he fired him, he talked to Aaron Rodgers. Like that much has been confirmed.
Sure.
Do we think the head coach didn't come up at all? I mean, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
Which is not me saying that Rodgers whacked him, right? But at some point you got to take the pulse of somebody. Now, he said he spoke to Joe Douglas as general manager. I don't know that Joe would, Joe and Saleh have been working together. I don't know that Joe would throw him under the bus like that. So somebody, you can't as an owner sit there and if you're talking to everybody or you're not talking to most people and the people you're talking to are saying, no, like somebody had to tell him this guy. And maybe it's the fan base or the fact that he was, as we've been saying, you can't overstate the fact that game was in London. He was the former ambassador there. He had a bunch of friends and it was an embarrassing start to the game. And I've seen him after the butt fumble game. He was walking the corridors down there, and I tried to stop him. I was at USA Today at the time. I tried to stop him to do an interview, and boy, he just I couldn't get a word out. He just grumbled, and I remember I used the words and I did like this grumble, and I had it through my column, kind of kept coming back to it or whatever. So he gave more in that second of a grumble than he would have in an interview, I guess. But I just remember how hot he left his seat. He and Fireman Ed both left their seats. So I know how he can get. Some owners are, they're okay, great. A lot of people here. We made a lot of money today. Sure, I would have liked to, but some owners really want to. He really does badly want to win. So I think that was it all the way. He said he made the decision alone. Was it all the way alone? I doubt that, but I think it was a high percentage.
Yeah, the going back to the Thursday night game, who's got more pressure on them tonight? The San Francisco or Seattle?
Seattle. That's where you live. Yes.
Yeah. I couldn't even come up with it. I mean, I'm blanking. I'm such an idiot.
Isn't that fairly obvious? Are you going to make a case for the Seahawks?
Well, I'm just curious. I mean, I think you can make an argument that there's both. There's pressure on both.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, Mike McDonald, for reasons that we said previously about, who they played. Well, okay, now it's time. Now it's time to make a statement. So there's pressure in that regard. But I mean, with San Francisco and how high the expectations are and how high the salaries are there, and the way that they just gave that game away the other day, they got to come back and win. And I mean, they've won in Seattle before. It's not like they haven't. It's not like it's a house of horrors to them. I remember some Thursday games that were there was a game with a missed field goal at the end, right on a Thursday a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, they've had wild games in the past, but it's a game in which San Francisco has dominated. I mean, of late. I mean, they won the 5 straight, and they've handled them. Handled them. But I mean, it's also just a different game because it's two different teams that are all banged up heading into the game.
And I think there's a credibility thing because hey, we're going to get Kenneth Walker involved, and we're not going to let things be dictated the way. And the Giants did a great job the other day of playing safe, smart football. Like they did that 2 years ago really well, and they got away from it last year. They tried to open things up more and be more explosive. And without neighbors on the field, it's like, well, we got to go back to what we did 2 years ago. We got to dial things up so Daniel Jones doesn't have to make overly complicated reads or whatever. We're only going to take a couple of shots. And when you do that, you execute well and you're picking up these little chunks. It's hard to stop that momentum. And that's what Seattle got itself involved in there and had to play from behind. So you've got to now be that team against San Francisco this week, and you can have a plan going in for, hey, we're going to get Kenneth Walker involved. Like, hey, you got to make it happen too. Like that's part of it. So I still think that they're on the level when they talk about that, and they need to make it happen early.
All right, we love having you on as always. Mike Garafolo every single week talking all things NFL. It's all brought to you by Hartley & Hartley Insurance, your trusted family-owned insurance experts in the Puget Sound area since 1978. Honesty, fairness, integrity. Contact Jamie Hartley at 253-565-8700. Also, Zogs on Fox Island. Perfect spot to grab a cold beer, hang out with friends, and catch the game. In case you missed it, it'll be up on YouTube. Also, you can listen to it, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find a podcast, of course, pucksports.com. Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it as always.
Enjoy the game.